and consistency. That's it. There's no secret sauce. Okay? So let me tell you, when you get to a spot, who here, when you go see a movie or see something else, you're like, ooh, that makes me think of Beachbody. That's when you know you got it bad. Right? You go and you watch the movie about the snail who like falls in radioactive stuff or whatever, and then he gets really fast, and you're like, that reminds me of Beachbody. The snail has a dream. Everybody's saying no. So that's when you know you got it bad. But so for me, I've been that way for a long time, so everything makes me think about Beachbody, including Zion National Park. So when I left the police department, I went on a 47-day vacation, packed up all of the family, took my dad, and we went all over the place, 47 days. It was a long trip. It was great. But so Zion National Park, I'm like, this makes me think of Beachbody. Here's why. It's 20 bucks a carload to get into Zion National Park, and it's amazing. You get to go in there, you get to hang out with cool people, right? You get to see some cool things for 20 bucks. So it's so simple. And so many people, they go in there and they're just cool with that. They don't do anything else past that. When you go into Zion Lodge, you know, it's in Utah. And there's, you know, these giant canyons, there's condors flying, there's wildlife everywhere, and some people are content to just come in there and look around and be like, this is pretty awesome. But then there's other people who want to do more than that. You know, you go and you check out, and you go to Zion Lodge, and you go and you talk to other people, and maybe, you know, you just meet a couple of people, make a couple of friends, so you sell a challenge pack or two, maybe you make an extra $40, $80. That's fine. If that's where you're happy, that's fine. That's where most of the people stay. But there's so much more to that place, and there's so much more to this business. In the end, you know what, I'm going to skip this slide because I don't like the order. So when we went out there was this one spot, actually I'll go back. There's this one spot called Angel's Landing, one of the coolest hikes in the country. So the first year that we went out there, we saw Angel's Landing, and it's basically a day hike. And you know, the reason there's that little man like this is because like people, you know, there's a sign that says caution, this many people have died during this hike. You don't die because you're a Beachbody coach, right? But we went out there and we were like, we gotta do that. But that was the year before. And we brought our kids, and we were like, well, who's going to watch our kids while we go climb this mountain? So next year, we're like, hey, Pop, going on a trip, you want to come? So it took some preparation to do this extra stuff. It took, you know, maybe you want to call that the personal development. You want to call it getting out of your comfort zone or these other things. But we had to get ready to reach the goal that we had now set for ourselves. And so then, one of the first parts of going to Angel's Landing is this trail called Walter's Wiggles. It's the only way to get up there. The reason it's called Angel's Landing is because when the settlers were there, they looked at it and they were like, only an angel could get there. No man will ever be there. And so as I'm walking up this beast, I'm like, this reminds me of Beachbody. Because I have a destination, I have a goal, right? And I just walk this way, and I turn around and walk back. And then I'm like, find, share, and invite, be proof the product's worth, personal development, go to sleep. Find, share, and invite, personal development, be proof the product's worth, go to sleep. Find, same thing. It's exactly, and it's the only way to get to the top. And I'm going at my speed, right? Because, you know, I'm sitting here and I'm like, and then some guy in short shorts and, you know, those 5 feet, he's like, and he goes past me, you know? And I'm like, man, more power to you. Just like they were talking about Melanie Mitchell. She works harder than I do. That's why she did what she did. So she, no offense, but she's the guy in short shorts and the, you know, in this analogy, which is a good thing. But it's the same, there's no shortcut. How fast you want to go is up to you, but it's the same thing over and over again. And you sit there and you're like, oh my gosh, Do I really want to do this again today? And the answer is yes, it is, if you want to go to the top. And you know, one of the things that we made videos about it the time before, because when you sign up as a coach, and we made it at the bottom of the Angel's Landing, when you sign up as a coach, people will come out and they will actually tell you, hey, you know, you shouldn't do this, you're going to lose money. And they actually think they're doing you a favor. And you know what you tell them? Is you're like, you see this mountain? I'm going to the top. And you just put that in your head, that that's what you're going to do. Because when you get on this trail, or when you sign up, you either do two things. You succeed or you quit. Those are the only two things. It's your race, it's your speed, but you get there. It only goes one way. There's only one way there. So this is a view from Scouts Landing, or I'm sorry, Scouts Lookout. So after you do Walters Wiggles, and you've done all the find, share, and invite, you find yourself at Scouts Lane, Scouts Lookout. And it's pretty desolate up there. I mean, you see these amazing things, but there's a whole bunch of people down at the bottom. But there's not a whole lot of people right here, because we were willing to do things that they're not willing to do. They're happy and content down there looking at the trees, the occasional squirrel, whatever. You're like, cool, squirrel. And I'm up there and I'm like, you people look like ants. You know, because I'm able to do the things that they weren't willing to do. And so for me, you know, in this analogy, maybe this is to pay off your debt. Maybe it's a Success Club trip. Whatever it is, after you do those vital behaviors enough, it puts you in a spot where other people aren't willing to go because they're not willing to do the things that it takes to get there. But then, as I'm sitting there, there's Angel's Landing. And it's like a 1,200-foot drop on either side. And there's some spots, it's crazy. There's a couple of spots where how they made this hike is there's chains like hammered in to the side of the mountain. And there's like a little path this way. And it's two ways, right? So like you're going like this, and there's somebody coming back down, you're like, you know, and they go around you. And then, you know, but a lot of people aren't willing to do that. And so when we went up to Angel's Landing, even more, or even less people, you're up there and there's thousands of people in the park, and there's a dozen or 24 up here. And you're seeing things that all of those people aren't able to see because you did things that those people aren't willing to do. And you did it consistently, monotonously, through Walters Wiggles to get here. It's a little scary sometimes, but you have to step outside of that comfort zone and understand that it's completely up to you whether or not you want to do it. Anybody can go do this hike if they want to put the effort into it. So when you get to Angel's Landing, and you're standing there, and you're looking at this, and it gives me goosebumps because the view and just the experience is so amazing, and you just got to take back and you're like, man, you know, there are thousands and thousands of people coming into this park every day, and maybe 30 or 40 are up here, and it's because I chose to do things that they weren't willing to do. Because they could do exactly the same thing. They had exactly the same ability. They had exactly the same path. Everything was the same except for the choice and the decision not to give up. And that's what this business is for everybody in here. You know, it doesn't matter what it is that drives you. You know, whatever your why is. But if you do this and you do it right, man, guys, it will change your life. Like I was talking about, the only difference is time and consistency. And I'll tell you a quick story to go with this, where, you know, Monica Ward is my mentor. And I always go back to a conversation that I had with her. I met her at Summit, and she was in my upline a couple of, one notch above. And I was like, hey, you know what, can you help me? And she's like, sure, no problem. And so we set up a phone call. And I remember exactly where I was. I was in a squad car. I was sitting in front of Subway. And I'm talking to her. And I was like, okay, what do I need to do? And she's like, she gave me a few things, but she goes, one of the first things I want you to do, I want you to go to the seminar. And it was a goal-setting seminar. And I looked at it, and she started telling me about it. And so I'm looking it up, and it was in Vegas and Arizona. Those were two places it was. And I live in Texas, and I had just come back from Summit, and I was like, man, okay, I'll try. I mean, we'll see. I don't really see it happening though, because I don't have any vacation time, and I just put Summit on my credit card. And she's like, okay, well, I want you to try it. I hung up, and before I left the parking lot, I was like, man, what in the world am I doing? I am the customer or coach that drives me crazy when somebody comes to me and they're like, oh my gosh, I have such a problem, will you please help me? And I give them the answer, and they're like, oh, I don't have time for that. I don't have the money for that. And I was like, that's me, I'm that guy. So I called the seminar, and I was like, hey, what does it take to bring you guys to Texas? How many people do I need to put in the seminar? And they gave me that number, and it was a huge number, and I was like, no, that's not gonna work. And so, I started working extra shifts, and I made that trip happen. It was about 6 weeks later, I actually roomed with Dave, her husband, and the seminar was good, but the lesson that I learned from understanding that time and money is the excuse that people give everybody, that was even more valuable. And so when you think about, the time and money being an excuse for, if you're talking about a Beachbody coach, time and money is why you should be a Beachbody coach. If you don't have time because you've got a bunch of kids and you work too much, then you should be a Beachbody coach so that you can spend time with your kids. If you don't have enough money to be a Beachbody coach, then you're doing it wrong, because it will absolutely change your life if you do it, and you do it right. So I'm going to talk about my 3 to 5 rule, and it's funny, because I really completely feel like I stole this from their presentation, but I hadn't seen it yet. But so I'll change that from my 3 to 5 rule to the 3 to 5 rule next time. But it's a little bit more fleshed out, I think. So 3 to 5 rule. This is what it takes consistently every day, and I think I'll put at least on here too in the future. Because if you set a goal, you're like, hey, I want to get 6 success club points this month. If that's what you put in your head, you're going to get, and you understand, you're determined enough about it, you're going to get 6 success club points, but then you're going to kind of hit the brakes. So if you put at least in front of it, then you almost give your brain permission to do more than that. So my 3 to 5 rule, add 3 to 5 people every day. You guys just heard this, okay? And like they were talking about in groups, that's fantastic. I'll tell you one of the other ways is in addition to going and finding groups, make your own. Find a local 5K or a local whatever. You're going to local 5K, and you're like, hey, here's my Washington D.C. couch to 5K training group, and now you're the admin. So like, you can friend request to everybody that comes in there because, you came into their group. So, we have lots of groups that we admin, and they involve running and Disney. We got some Disney people here where we get those. And so it's a really great way. If you can't find people in groups, you're probably not looking hard enough, but make your own. Start 3 to 5 new conversations every day. And that doesn't mean necessarily, hey, buy my challenge pack. It just means, hey, how are you doing? Looks like that trip was awesome. You should do some, where did you go? Or give me some recommendations. Sign 3 to 5 coaches a month. Now I tell you guys, some of you, nobody has to raise their hand, but who looks at that and is like, holy cow, I hadn't signed 3 coaches yet. It's about mindset. I was explaining, when we were talking about 74 months in Success Club, and I'll tell you guys, I missed the first 3 months because I thought that it was impossible. At that point, you know, listen to this, those of you who know about Success Club trips now, at that point, if you made Success Club 9 months in a row, you went on the trip, and it was free. You didn't pay anything. Okay, it's changed a little bit now. But so I went to Summit in April, I think that's right. Went to Summit in April 2010, and Carl was up there on the stage, and he's like, all right guys, you know, we're gonna really push this, and we're gonna count the next month twice. So if you make Success Club from here on out, then you go in the boat. And it's funny because before I went to Summit, I talked to these other people and I saw they were just like me. And I was like, holy cow, if they can do this, so can I. But before that, and I heard about Success Club, meaning 5 points every month, 9 months out of the year or in a row. I was like, holy, there's gonna be like 6 coaches on that boat. It's gonna be like Christine Dwyer, you know, Barbie Decker's gonna be on it, or Barbie Kalev, and you know, Robert Hutchins, or these other, it's gonna be like 6 people on there. But I went to Summit and I came back and I was like, if it's possible to make Success Club, if it's possible to bring in 3 to 5 people, this month I'm gonna do it because I'm gonna bust my tail and make it happen. And I came home and I did it. And then I did it again the next month.